No, I get it. I'm in the nether, and technically this whole thing is blocked off by tinted glass, but it's still really dark. I think I'm gonna have to adjust that. I'm gonna need to make myself a chorus plant farm. What up, my roomies, and welcome back to the technical guide to Minecraft. And you know when like you're kind of getting the rhythm of things and then like you lose track of time, and then before you know it you got a lot done but really you got nothing done at the same time? Yeah, that was me getting chorus plants, because I was only planning on getting like a couple just to get started, and then I was like, well, there's more here, I might as well just finish it off. And then one island became another island, which became another island, and well, yeah, I ended up just completely deforesting an entire area full of chorus plants, and now I have a bunch of chorus fruits and flowers that, well, kind of defeats the purpose of building the farm, but I'm still gonna build it anyway. But suffice to say, I think I have enough to last me quite a bit, or at least for the near future anyway. I mean, it is kind of ridiculous, like, just losing track of time and kind of going through it, but yeah, I mean, there are worse problems to have, and I'm still gonna need a chorus plant. You know, that one right there is gonna annoy me. I'm gonna go take care of it real quick. Anyway, we're still gonna build a chorus fruit and flower farm, just because I'm gonna need more in the future. Considering how big my base is, I'm just gonna need a farm of some sort inside my base. But yeah, without any further ado, welcome to KiguCorp, where safety is a concern. Now over here we have just an endstone, and as any of you might know, chorus flowers can only grow on top of endstone, and given enough time, this chorus flower will grow and grow and grow and grow and grow, and left to its own devices, it's gonna grow to an kind of unmaintainable height. And while the higher it is, the more fruit you can get, it also becomes very hard to harvest the flowers themselves, because chorus plants, you can't just hit the bottom of it and have the entire thing. The chorus flower itself must be harvested individually from the rest of the plant itself, otherwise it just gets lost and you won't be able to make any more chorus flowers. But here's the thing, as I mentioned before, if left to its own devices, it's just going to keep growing as vertically as it possibly can until it randomly just decides to just stop growing. And not only that, it'll keep splitting to different segments uncontrollably until it just randomly just stops. So right now, that single chorus flower has now split off into 5 different directions, and harvesting these flowers from this high is kind of a problem. Now here's the thing, if it's this high, then you could use a bow and arrow to harvest it so that you can get the chorus flowers and plant more in the future. And you can use snowballs, well, providing you can land it. And even eggs can be used as a way to harvest the chorus flowers. But this takes a lot of effort and takes a lot of time. Not to mention that this is really tall. And to make things worse, the top of a chorus plant is the size of a block, meaning that hostile mobs can actually spawn on top of the chorus flowers if you're not careful. And when it gets too high, it might be far enough away from the player to then allow hostile mobs to then spawn on top of it. And the issue is with the chorus plant, it's not as simple as putting a block on top to prevent it from growing too tall. As you saw before, that if left to its own devices, it's going to find a path in order to keep growing upward. And so it doesn't matter if there's a block right there, it'll just keep going up and up and up until it decides to just randomly stop growing. There are 2 problems in this. One, how do we control the growth of a chorus plant? And when I mean growth, I mean the height of it. And 2, how do we control the amount of times it dissects from its original point? Well, through clever game mechanics. As I mentioned before, chorus plants tend to grow up, and so we have an area in the middle where it's completely open. But not only that, the interesting thing about a chorus plant, or specifically the chorus flower, is that if there's a block next to it, the chorus flower will close. But not only that, it'll try to go to a path where there's an opening. However, it will not grow in between blocks or even next to a block, because what will end up happening is that if there's a block next to it, it'll break. And so, we can control the growth of a chorus plant by simply having an opening in the middle, having enough room for it to grow vertically, and having it able to grow on each one of these sides. And then, when it realizes that it can't grow vertically and it can't go to the side, it will then stop growth, and it'll remain right here. And thus, we can solve 2 of the problems. 1 is its unmanageable height, and 2, controlling the amount of branches it splits off into. And the cool thing about this is that when it grows, that there's a chance for it to grow in multiple directions, not just a single one. And so this way, you can actually have more than 1 chorus flower just from planting 1 chorus flower. But then the question becomes, how can we identify whether or not a chorus plant is ready to be harvested? And not just the plant itself, but both the flowers and the fruit. See, observers will give a redstone pulse depending on whether or not there's a block in front of it that changes. So as you can see here, when we delete the end stone, it'll then send a redstone pulse that'll pull the redstone block back. And although the coarse flower cannot grow or sustain itself when it's next to a block, it can sustain itself with a block on top of it. And we could use this to our advantage. Over here we have observers, where the 4 places where the coarse flower can grow into are looking. And just to help us indicate that it is being seen by these observers, we place a sticky piston with a redstone block in front of it. And so when the coarse flower then grows, the observers will notice its full growth and thus send a redstone pulse, which will then power the sticky piston. And there you go. Because the observers have observed that a coarse flower is in front of it, it sent a redstone pulse over to the sticky piston, which then pushed the redstone block. So if we were to use that same principle, if we had dispensers that are full of snowballs, we can then have it so that every time an observer observes that a coarse flower is in front of it, it'll send a redstone pulse that'll then shoot a snowball into the coarse flower. And thus all the coarse flowers get shot, and then we can harvest it. So then from here, all we need is a collection system. And just like before, we're going to load up all the dispensers with the snowballs, and then place a coarse flower down. And then when it finally grows in front of the observers, the dispensers will shoot a snowball, which will be ripe for us to collect. But you'll probably notice a very stark problem. There's still a stem right here. So to answer this problem, what we have here is a basic comparator delay. And what this comparator delay does is that it'll extend a redstone pulse and delay it from completely extinguishing. So when I press this note block, this observer is going to notice it, and thus you can see that it counts down. Now you might be wondering, why is this repeater on its second position? Well, if it was on its first position, the pulse is actually too fast for the comparators to actually read, and thus cannot extend the redstone pulse. So we keep it on the second stage in order to give it enough time for the comparators to collect it, and thus extend the pulse. And the cool part about this comparator redstone extender is that it can even power through blocks. So, as you can see, it slowly decreases in power until it finally extinguishes itself. So if we were to get a piston, say a sticky piston, what we can do then is that we can have it so that when a comparator energizes this end stone, it'll then turn on this sticky piston. And so when I press this note block, it'll extend the sticky piston, thus pushing the end stone up. And so on the top, when the observers notice that the coarse flowers are at full growth, it'll then send a redstone pulse, which will then go over this observer, which will then power downwards into the comparator redstone extender, which will then extend this end stone that is going to house the coarse flower. So if we were to just demonstrate this real quick, when this coarse flower extends in front of the observers, you'll notice that it'll send a redstone pulse downwards, and this end stone right here will be pushed up, destroying the coarse flower. When it retracts, all we gotta do is set up another one, and we're good to go. And then we can just go over here and collect the coarse fruit and the coarse flower. But there is one catch when it comes to coarse flower and fruit farms, is that you're gonna have to regrettably have to put the coarse flower in manually. There's no fully automatic way to do this, but that being said, there is a way to AFK it so that it's semi-automatic. And it's as simple as putting up just a small staircase up until this spot in the corner. It could really be any corner, it could even be on the side. But for the sake of just keeping everything simple, I just put it in the corner because, well, it's just nice to have it in this way. So again, if you load up all the dispensers with snowballs and then stand over here and just aim at the corner right here, we'll be able to hold down right click, press F3T, so the game will reload, and it just kind of does it by itself. You don't have to do anything else other than this. You can see that even though I'm not actively putting any input into the character, it's planting the coarse plants for me. It's really that simple. Now here's the interesting thing about the coarse flower and fruit farm is that this is what we would call a convergent solution. While this is an original design, this is not the first of its, well, design. See, while I did come to the solution myself, there might be better solutions out there on YouTube. And so I'm going to link in the description the earliest version of this sort of solution so that you can take a look at it yourself. If you want to play around with this, there's going to be a schematic and a world download in the description below. And with that in mind, let's head back to the technical guide world and get to it. Quick interruption. I noticed that only 12% of you are actually subscribed to this channel. Watching this long, I must be doing something right. So if you like this video, hit that like button and please subscribe to this channel. Any support helps and these videos take a bit long to make. Thank you so much, and back to the video. Let's just quickly put all this away before I accidentally mess up and fall into the void. That'd be so tragic. Oh man, I keep saying this. I think I've said it for like 3 episodes, but I really need to make a transport system so that I don't have to keep using up so many rockets. Alright, let's get started on this build. Now that we've finished building this thing, let's go grab ourselves 2 stacks of chorus flowers. Double check if all of our dispensers are full of snowballs, which they all do. Then we're going to stand in this position, and even though I don't really need it anymore, for the purposes of just filling up the Ambrosia storage center, we're going to AFK here overnight, and then see how much we get in the morning. We've been here a while. I actually ran out of chorus flowers, but let's see what our... Oh, we got quite a bit. That's a good start. And we have a lot of chorus flowers, which is pretty good. So I'm going to put this back in the shulker box real quick. And with all the chorus fruit that we have currently, which are going to be these, and then we can just start cooking all the different chorus fruits that we have in our inventory. But having popped chorus fruits to make end rods are not going to be enough to glow this place up. What we're also going to need is some glow lichen.